Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another show. I am going to be reviewing another old man shakes fist at cloud style video. Darth Dawkins yelling at a teenager, which is really kind of par for the course for Darth. This one, he gets into some topics that I think are a little bit interesting, but he gets super triggered by this kid, mostly because I think the kid is going out of his way to be polite. So that obviously he's being a troll. You know, when people go out of their way to be rude, they're obviously being a troll. And when they're going out of their way to be polite to Darth and show respect, they're obviously being a troll too. So literally can't win with this old crank.
No.
So yeah, this will be a good one to watch. And joining me is Stephen Ryan of Cider and Port. That's his YouTube channel. I've got his link posted in the description. He has not seen this.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I thought that I would kind of come for like the purely entertainment side. So I am about halfway through ripping a bong, and I am going into this blind. So I'm going into this blind and high. I'm just, I'm
Best way to do it.
What can I say? What can I say? I'm a slut for entertainment.
So join me while I guide young Stephen, high and blind, through the antics of Darth Dawkins and his rage at young Aizen here. So yeah, we'll get this started, and let's see. Let's make sure everything's shared out. Let me change that out. Okay, and here we go. As usual, per most of my videos, yell at me if nothing's coming through, volume's weird, anything like that. Otherwise, here we go.
Hey, Tom Rabbit! I hope you got this for your recording. Hey, YouTube out there. Tom Rabbit likes to record these. Hey, Tom Rabbit!
Hey, Darth.
Yeah.
Do you hear me? Okay. Well, first and foremost, no, just one second. Yeah, first and foremost, I would like to apologize. We talked last night. Do you remember?
I'm not looking at my screen. What's your name?
My name is Explicit. We talked last night. I want to apologize to you.
I don't remember for what.
Well, you just server muted me because I was being like a little bit argumentative and all that. But we had actually a good conversation. You actually complimented me before. So yeah, I just want to apologize. I was being a little bit argumentative. That's why you muted me, but it's all good. Okay.
Well, water under bridge. I don't even remember.
Okay, that's all good. So
I deal with so many people that are problematic. I don't take notes. Unless
they don't apologize to you.
Problematic, meaning asshole. This really bears repeating. If you're one of those people that runs into an asshole like first thing in the day, you can tell everyone that your friends and family about that asshole you met. But if you run into assholes all day long, odds are you're the asshole. And old Darth Dawkins here, like everybody he talks to is problematic on the internet. Like, no, the common denominator in that is you, Darth. So, but okay, so I don't need a pause for that. Let's keep going.
Don't worry about it. Go ahead.
Yeah. I just wanted to be respectful to you. You're my elder. So all I wanted to ask you was,
I will pause it for that. Nice work, kid. Like I will be respectful to you. You are my elder. Like I don't know if that was calculated or if he really meant it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm kind of trying to decide if that was a dig or not.
Yeah.
Like if it was kind of like, it's just kind of emphasizing the fact that like, no, like you're just old as fuck.
Yeah.
So I mean, I say old as fuck. I mean, I know he's only 60 and I know that's not ancient, but like, you know what I mean? Like in spirit, in mindset, Darth is old as fuck.
Yeah, the ossified mindset. Yeah, he's like an ent that's become corrupt, with too much time and age. Yeah. Yeah, mentally he's right there. But and yet though, like his emotional intelligence is that of a 7 or 8 year old. So
what are all the?
I mean, sorry. No.
That might be too old. That might be too old.
The attributes of the Christian God that you think are necessary for intelligibility that other gods do not possess. And I want to write this down because it's important, right?
Oh, you're the 15-year-old?
Yeah, I just apologized to you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. How's it going, Smoke Daddy?
Oh no, I'm not Smoke Daddy. You like
really?
What?
Yeah.
I don't sound anything like him.
Really?
I don't know. I think people in here know who Daddy Smoke is. I don't sound anything like him, and I'm apologizing to you for last night. Booney was here last night.
How about God being absolute? He's eternal. He's ultimate. Okay.
Oh, okay. Let me just write this down.
Let's just start with the first one. He's ultimate.
Okay. So Ultimate,
Yeah.
absolute,
Yeah.
eternal.
Yeah.
What else?
Yeah. No, let's just start with ultimate. Okay.
No, I know.
Is there any competitor out there?
I always like this because this is something that Darth tends to avoid. Somebody like, I mean, this kid's asking, like, all right, give me the grocery list. What's everything on your, it's like, what do you look for in the perfect woman or the perfect man? And he's gonna go through the list and he's like, okay, yeah, well, it's got to be tall and it's got to be handsome, but let's just stick with tall. How about tall? I mean, really, that's where everything like. So Ultimate's where he's gonna like try to like get Aizen to fixate on as much as Darth does, because he knows that if he starts getting yanked into omnibenevolent territory, that's where things start getting shaky. So, and maybe good for Darth. Maybe Darth knows better, because if he does get pushed into that territory, debating those properties with him really gets him angry fast. I've noticed.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be fair, I'm not necessarily saying you're wrong, but to be fair, everything gets Darth mad. Like everything does. You could turn up. It doesn't matter what fucking age you are, what fucking like anything else. Just everything gets him mad. He's just an angry little man. I don't know that he's little, but I am imagining he is. Like he's compensating for something, right? Either small in height or small in length.
He's little in terms of character. I see where you went there. Yeah, you're talking about shriveled.
Mhm.
Yeah, yep.
I'm not aware of one. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. So if somebody tries to postulate a God that is not love, that's going to metaphysically undermine intelligibility, because then we won't have a redemptive God.
Now this is weird.
Okay? Yeah, because the Bible teaches that God's redemption flows out of his attribute of love, and then if he's not a redemptive God, then he's not a God who cares about righteousness and justice, and he's a God who doesn't care about truth.
Okay, so there's a couple problems with this. I don't understand why, because like he's mentioned now that this God is ultimate, but it has to be a redemptive God, and redemptive has a very specific meaning, especially in theological circles. And now he's hung a bunch of these other things onto it. Redemptive means, in the theological sense, that he buys back his creation, and it's always kind of tricky when someone talks about an ultimate being, right? Because Darth doesn't want to usually talk about the Christian. Lately, that seems to have been his trick. The last several months, if anybody is like, oh, but your God is, you believe in the Christian God, the God of the Bible, the God of the New Testament, Jesus Christ. And no, you're jumping ahead. You're getting ahead of yourself, sir. I'm just talking about that one that undermines or underpins metaphysics or whatever. But here he is talking about one that is redemptive. Redemptive only matters in the Christian theological case because he buys back his people from sin. You have to purchase them back from something, or you have to pay. You have to pay something for them or sacrifice something for them in order to get them back. I mean, I guess this happens in Judaism as well, if you take a look at certain kind of covenant relationships in the Old Testament. But Christianity is just chock full of this kind of language, and here he is just kind of throwing it out there as if like, no, it doesn't matter. That's part of this kind of basic God of philosophy too, is that he's quote unquote redemptive. If he's not redemptive, then he doesn't care about righteousness, which is fucking weird, because redemptive, buying things back doesn't make any sense in terms of righteousness. I don't get why that. Being righteous just means that anything that you do is right or correct. And in terms of being just, that just means you make sure that any wrongdoer has punishment meted out to them according to what they deserve. How does redemption relate to any of these things? It's more of that kind of Christian, like, let's just whip all these together and make it so, like, I'm going to insist that they're inseparable. Trust me, they are. Please don't pull them apart.
Yeah, like, please don't ask me any questions about them. Just, as you said, just trust me, bro. That's my source. Just trust me.
You can ask me any question you want about Jesus, except the hard ones. Don't ask the hard ones.
But yeah, like, ask me what type of person he was. Ask me who he hung around with. I mean, like, don't question the fact that I only hung with, 9 other men, and my best friend was a prostitute. But don't really question that. Just kind of go with it. Like it's all good. It's all fine. Just how did he actually do it? Like, is he actually there? Like, do we have any proof of this? Yeah, you just got to trust me, bro.
The one thing
That's
that you
it.
can do to really, the one thing you can do to really trigger these guys is to say, hey, no, I actually think Jesus was a real guy, and I think that, if you were to ask me what I think his personality was like, I don't think that the gospel, like if you read the gospels, in Matthew he seems like kind of a jerk, and Mark he seems like kind of a jerk, and Luke he seems like a real jerk, and then in John he seems like a jerk, but so fucking full of himself and so holier than thou that you basically have to forgive him, because John's really laying on the whole. This is God in a meat bag, right? This is God in wearing a man suit. And if you look at all those, it's like, look, I kind of personally think that Jesus either was much better than the Gospels kind of imply, or he was a lot worse a person than his believers think. And there were probably Christians that followed him that were much better people. And they probably had better messages than him. Like the fact that he ends up getting crucified by by Rome for reasons associated with basically a political uprising, which means he probably wasn't. It probably wasn't like the way the narratives tend to make it. It's like the Jews didn't want to hear his message and didn't want to acknowledge him, so they sold him out. And those charges of him being a political dissident were trumped up. Nope, because Rome wouldn't have cared. Rome's not going to do the Pharisees' dirty work. That was always always the biggest plot hole. And like the Pharisees aren't even that. They're not even that influential. Like they're a pretty big group. But they're this legalistic sect. The majority of Jews, even devout ones, aren't Pharisees. But the Romans aren't going to be like, oh, the Pharisees are angry at this guy. But no, the Pharisees could have gone to him and said, hey, we want you to get rid of this guy. You can kill him, right? We'll just say that he's, what? He's saying that he's the king. He's going to overthrow Rome. Even then, they'd be like, no, he's not going to do that. And don't try to, don't threaten us with a good time by telling us there's a rebel army that we can smash. Right? There isn't. There's just this wacko out there preaching a message you don't appreciate. So the fact that I think that Rome, if he's real and Rome killed him, it was because he was probably a dissident. Like he was actually going after Rome, or at least trying to say, hey, I am going to be king of Israel. I will be the new ruler. And Rome's like, no, that's not how things work. We run things and we appoint who rules, and you're not it. So scratch that. Well, we step over next to this tree we'd like to hammer you onto. And anyway, sermon done.
Anywho, yeah.
Okay,
so these attributes are interconnected and interrelated.
Yeah.
So what do you believe?
I'm a deist, but first we can talk about that later for sure. We can talk about my deism for sure later. So are those the only 3 attributes, or do you think God has to be omnibenevolent for intelligibility?
Well, God's benevolence is probably could be included in the meaning that God is love. Okay, so he has to be omnibenevolent. Yeah. Does he have to be always truth revealing for us to have intelligibility? Okay, what is the ultimacy of reality must be truth revealing in order for there to be metaphysical grounds for there to be intelligibility. Intelligibility does not mean
that sentence made no sense. Like, and I'm not high.
No,
I wish I were. I wish I'd been high the first time I heard it, because the first time I heard it was like, wait, why does the one follow the other and then the other again? Like it was like, but if you play that, I'm not going to play it again. But if you play that, he says like, this has to follow this, which has to follow the first part. Like, wait, which one came first? Like, it's just this weird little circle that he wraps up. Like, well, intelligibility.
I was just going to say, yeah, did he literally just create a circle, like with his whole argument?
It kind of sounded like he said, like, intelligibility is necessary for us to have a grounding for metaphysics, which grounds intelligibility, or something like what the fuck are you on about? Like, I don't think he was even paying attention. Like, maybe that's not what he was saying, and maybe I'm completely getting it wrong, but I think he's kind of freewheeling it with the kid here, and he's not being all that careful.
I mean, look, to be fair, from the last video that you did that I was, partially here for until my internet decided to have a fucking lactose reaction fucking shitstorm. His concept of like arguments and of like logic is not exactly great. Like he had a whole thing where, and I like wasn't here for it, but I did watch it back, was like he like made the first bit of the argument like if God exists then X, and then part 2 was just X.
X.
Just like,
Yeah, that's the best one. Yeah, God exists. God exists.
he has
God exists. It's
yeah.
like, okay.
It's just like to expect him to kind of know or to be able to argue rationally is I mean it's unfair, and it's kind of akin to ableism. So
Kind of a bit, yeah. What I think what kills me about this kind of stuff is that like I think this is probably maybe like the trick to like why people will still watch him is that you're hearing the same thing, and he does repeat himself a lot. He has a lot of little catchphrases, a lot of repeat phrases that he uses that could really go on T-shirts and mugs, already. But when it comes to his arguments and stuff, he finds weird ways of saying kind of the same incorrect or vacuous nonsense. Like he's there's lots of different ways that he says them. And it's always interesting to hear like, okay, how is he going to, because like if you listen to like the stuff he emphasizes now, it's not too different than what he was doing like maybe 2-3 years ago, but the word choice is all different. I mean, there's bits and pieces that he hasn't bothered to change, but there's a lot of different, there's a little different, little differences, subtle changes in emphasis, things he's picked up. So yeah, so people are like, I don't understand why after years of this guy being on there, why anybody's still paying attention to him. It's like, because he keeps mutating. We're watching this slow mutation over time, and it doesn't seem to be for the better. It's just like content-wise, it's the same. He just keeps trying to change the appearance of it a little bit as he goes on, while he steadily grows more insane, or at least more reactionary to anybody he talks to. So yeah.
Question that I had for you actually: do you think that Darth has gotten worse or like angrier with age? Because I mean, like obviously you kind of like watch like his videos, you cover them on stream, and like we've all kind of seen like the older videos from Tom. So like, do you think that he's gotten angrier and more kind of, I don't know, rageful
he's less
with age?
I think he's probably just as bad, if not worse. The only difference is that he's not as demonstrably angry. Like he does not yell as because he's been caught too many times in video, and when that happens, there's just too many people laughing at him. So I don't, we haven't seen but I mean, like there's one where he's dropping F-bombs left and right. It's a brand new one that Tom just did where he's getting muted quite a bit by a moderator in one of
I saw that actually.
Servers.
Yeah.
And that just triggered somebody's dropping F-bombs and stuff like that. He's getting mad, but he does more passive aggressive stuff now where he'll, I'll just leave, and also he'll talk about like he'll have those discussions in the background. So I'm sure he gets nasty and tries to throw his weight around and everything like that. But I think he's a lot more careful about making sure that stuff's never recorded. So he's definitely more guarded, but I think he's more guarded because he is just as angry as he's always been. He's just a little bit better at keeping it behind the scenes. Tom Rabbit asked, "Did you already go over how he doesn't know what precocious means?" No, I made sure to put the word precocious in the title, Tom Rabbit, so I didn't forget. But he hasn't gotten to it yet. It comes up towards I think it's in the latter half of the video. I will be pointing it out. It's weird, and it's not like they.
Okay, I mean, I could have done with a spoiler alert, but it's again going in blind. Haven't seen it, but yeah.
Okay, the spoiler alert is Darth gets the definition of a word wrong, so I don't think that spoiled anything for you.
Well, I mean, that's not really a spoiler alert. It's kind of like,
and the word is precocious. He gets precocious wrong. Yeah, Tom says he said it like 5 times to people as an insult. Yeah, it's really weird. He's using it in like a pejorative sense, and it's like he doesn't know what precocious means. All right, here we go.
Yeah. The word intelligibility has been misconstrued by sophist atheists who are not well read in Vantillian apologetics or metaphysics.
Do you think I'm one of those?
I don't know. Maybe.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Now, intelligibility means that whatever is proposed as being intelligible that there's actual fundamental metaphysical grounds for there to be intelligibility. The intelligibility is not intelligibility does not mean simply or only that somebody else understands you. Okay. So let me give you an example.
Intelligibility means is about the capacity to be understood. I'm not exactly sure. He's not real good. He's going to go into an example, and I'm just going to let this thing play through. And once it's done, I'll pause it because I am interested to see what your reaction is to this. I'm going to play the whole thing. There's a little bit of back and forth after he gives kind of the meat of it. Tiny little spoiler alert. He doesn't really seem to know when to stop giving an analogy. So yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
Suppose
they could last for 30 seconds or 30 minutes. It's kind of there's just no in between.
Yeah, and in this one, it seems like because he doesn't wrap it up, he doesn't put an end to it. He kind of ends up. Well, never mind. We'll just see.
Somebody who's a schizophrenic, right? You know that people who have schizophrenia, that their reasoning is at times insane and completely convoluted, and they will make.
Sure.
Okay? They'll say yeah. They'll just say the picture on the wall has a headache, right? You'll smile at that, right?
The picture on the wall has a what?
A headache.
Oh, well, I wouldn't think that's true. No.
Right. Okay. So, but if he's talking to another schizophrenic, right, who's equally crazy, he'll nod his head and say, you know what? I agree with you. That picture is thirsty. So the fact that there is verbiage going on, but both parties think they're comprehending each other, is intelligibility actually real there?
Are you asking me a question?
Yeah. Is there intelligibility real? Is it real?
They understand each other, so there's only intelligibility.
Right? So when the second schizophrenic, when he hears that the picture has a headache, he says, yeah, you're right, it's thirsty.
Oh, then there's no intelligibility there, no.
Right, but they both think that they possess intelligibility. And then
I wouldn't know about that.
The second schizophrenic says, you know what? I agree with you. And he goes into the closet and he gets 2 Tylenol and he says, here, that'll take care of the headache, because everybody knows that Tylenol cures thirst.
Yeah. Okay.
And the first guy goes, you know what? You're right. Because when you take 2 Tylenol, it cures thirst. And everybody knows that headaches are brought about by being thirsty. Okay, so the fact.
So the one schizophrenic just acknowledged the headaches that the first one was talking about. So now the story makes sense. These guys just made sense to each other. I'm not exactly sure what the hell is wrong with him.
Is this because I'm a little bit high, or because he's just very, very, very stupid? But that just did not make any fucking sense at all.
Right. I mean, it starts out like this guy saying a random thing, and then this guy says a random thing back to him, and they're both schizophrenic, so they obviously can't be made. No one's going to understand what the hell they're talking about. But he wraps up his analogy by the two of them eventually understanding what the other one is talking about. The one that was talking about the picture being thirsty is like, oh yeah, the Tylenol that you recommend for the headache, that's going to work because thirst causes headaches. So they just fucking made a connection with each other. So yeah, no, they're completely wrong about stuff. But they just made sense to one another.
But yeah, because they validated each other's argument. Yeah, or their point. Yeah.
Yeah, they can see each other's point. Yeah.
Like, okay, I know. Look, I'm not going to judge, right? Because there have been certain times, especially would say on a night like tonight, where I've ingested the substance, where I too have started a sentence and have no fucking clue where it's going. But he's supposed to be sober, so like, I mean, it's kind of impressive. I mean, like, is it kind of one of those, when you reveal your own dark secret, like, is that why he asks people, like, if they're sober or if they smoked pot, or tell him to put down the bong because he's just fucking stuck to it? Like, is that the left? Like, I don't know, man.
I mean, yeah, it could be like this guy is just a power drunk and has been the entire time, but you can't tell. Like he just doesn't.
Yeah. But you just can't tell because like he's not sober enough for it to kind of come across, you know?
Right. I could explain like some of the repeat stuttering and some of the weird pronounce. There's one where he actually he doubles down on. He tries to correct somebody's pronunciation of the word deist, and the guy says it clearly. He's like, oh, you mean deist, and it like he's correcting him. And when he said, he's like, did you mean deist or theist? And I'm like, the way he pronounces theist with like a P and an H and then a splash of saliva spray. It's just like, look, dude, come on, don't get on people for pronouncing things. Like, you know, if he gives anyone a difficult time pronouncing any words, ask him to say the word appropriate. He always says it appropriate. Like, it's the weirdest.
Yeah,
it's one of the weirder words he says. I can't do it any justice. It's subtle, but it's like appropriate. Like he's trying to say.
I mean, like he says
prop and perp
most words wrong though.
Some bigger ones, yeah.
Words wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, he gets the swear words right though.
Yeah, he
like
but I mean, yeah, so it's sort of like the bigger words that he says, you know, like he kind of doesn't say them right. I mean, like maybe that's why he was such a fan of Donald Trump, because he too couldn't say most words. You know, that's my theory.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Frustrated. Yeah, the way he says frustrated is just it kills me. I knew somebody that used to say flustrated, like flustered and frustrated. They'd like merge the two, and I don't think they knew the difference. And every time, but it was subtle enough, like I couldn't tell if they were saying it wrong or if I was just going insane or losing my hearing.
Yeah.
Michael Deaton said no, but his constant references to being micturated and defecated upon are 100% Freudian admissions of his inner desires.
Probably, yeah. Yeah. Look, I mean, we're not here to kink shame. We're not about that business. But, you know, I mean, I do personally think it's a little bit weird that a 60-year-old wants to get pissed on. That's just me, though. That's just me. Again, I'm not kink shaming. You have the kink, you fucking go for it, you know, but there's some things. If the sentence in its completion doesn't make sense, that's not really the point, even if a word is understood. Yeah. If
the sentence is in its completion doesn't make sense, that's not really the point. Even if a word is understood by one party to another as the same referent, that's intelligibility. Exactly. And he demonstrated his analogy that the two of them were understanding each other because they made a connection to what was going on with the painting. So it's like, Darth, you might want to like take that back to the drawing board, because your schizophrenics, they make more sense than you do.
Right. Yeah. Let's have you heard, like, or have you noticed when he says the word singularly, like the S just goes on for miles? Like it's so long. It's like 4 seconds of video. It's like singularly. And I'm like, dude, just say it. Why are you having such a problem?
Say it, don't spray it.
Word. Yeah.
The fact that they both believe that there's intelligibility doesn't mean that there's intelligibility. Okay. Intelligibility means that there's actual ontological foundational grounds in order for there to be intelligibility, not just because two agents believe that there's intelligibility. Okay. So, for example, if one person goes to another person at a deli, give me a roast beef sandwich with mustard on it. Right? The person says, okay, sure. And he comes back with a roast beef sandwich with mustard on it. Does that mean that there's intelligibility going on? Does that necessitate it?
I don't think so.
Okay. The point is, intelligibility, just like anything else, is not going to exist in and of itself. It's going to have some ultimate precondition, right?
This makes no sense. No, if that were the case, fiction wouldn't work. You can make stories about literal nonsense, and they work for us. They're entertaining. People find meaning to them. They have people can even like seemingly kind of start to make sense of this. Somebody can present something that's totally nonsensical, and it has a hidden meaning underneath it. So this does not like. Does Darth like art? Does he have any appreciation for like? I know he doesn't like rock music because the drums are from the devil. He's mentioned that many times before.
Oh, fuck off.
Yeah, syncopated rhythms were brought to the United States and turned into rock and roll because Louisiana was the only state that didn't ban the slaves from playing their tribal savage rhythms. And that's how the United States, that's how the world ended up becoming plagued with rock music and jazz music, which has those syncopated rhythms, which are designed to lure people into an evil stupor. I shit you not, he believes that. He's told people this. Laid it right out for him. Like, so on top of not only do you hate music, but your justifications for why you hate them are hysterical, superstitious, and racist. Like, he's one of the worst human beings I've ever heard. Like, or at least, if not the worst human being, he has the worst collection of ideas ever heard. Like, I mean, there are KKK members that have better music appreciation for art and the humanities than Darth Dawkins does. Darth just likes Apple products and Saturday Night Live, as far as I know. I think he might also be a big fan of the Police Academy movies.
Probably, yeah. I'm getting a vibe as well. I'm getting that vibe. I'm getting the vibe. I don't know, man. Look, I mean, there is like absolutely not one of us out here who you know thinks that Darth wasn't like both sobbing tears of joy and also coming at the same time when he heard about what happened to George Floyd or Trayvon Martin or like any of these other people. Like, so I mean, like his racism has been pretty fucking self-evident. I mean, how many videos are there out there of him asking people if English is their first language?
Right.
You know, like he constantly makes fun of trans people. He constantly degrades gay people. Like, I do agree with what you're saying, and I 100% see what you're saying as well. Like, he's not necessarily like he's objectively not the worst human. Like, there are objectively worse people than or who have done worse things than Darth, but you know, he definitely is, like, idea for idea, he is definitely one of the worst people alive.
Yes. Agreed. Even somebody wrote, even KKK like syncopated music. Yes. Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Who doesn't? And the one thing is, when I heard him talking about the syncopated thing, he was saying like, oh, it's from the drumming. And it's like completely missing the fact, like, if you understood what he was going, like the theme song to the movie The Sting, that piano bit is syncopated. There's not a drum in that song. Like, that's just one example. Like, there's plenty of examples of syncopation happening in music with no drumming. But he seems to think that, like, you have to, in order to experience a syncopated rhythm, you have to have drums, and those drums come from the, you know, from the savage lands. Like, it's amazing.
Well, I don't know about that. See, I disagree with your viewpoint, so obviously I don't believe.
Oh, okay. So you believe that there is something that exists that doesn't derive and depend upon whatever is the ground of all being?
I can explain that in depth, and just before
all I want to know is there something that exists that doesn't derive and depend upon the ground of all being, or is it that you don't believe that there's a ground of all being?
Is there something that exists that does not derive from the ground of all being? I don't think so. No.
Okay. So do you believe that there is a ground of all being?
Again, that's another way of him asking that goofy ass question, right? Like, how did you conclude that there's a fact that's independent of a God, right? Well, the problem with that is that you wouldn't do that epistemologically. You wouldn't base things that you think that you know, or you wouldn't even really talk about, how do I know things based on ontology, right? That they're two separate fields. He's doing the same thing that he was doing, because this is the thing that Tom Rabbit's been telling people about, right? And that I'll be going over that in a couple videos later. But it's that whole, like, he tries to ask somebody, it's either they're affirming that there are no there's a single fact that can be affirmed or referenced without referencing God, or referencing the necessity of God, or without referencing the necessity of referencing the necessity of God, however he puts it, because he puts it a dozen different ways, but it's always the same thing. You can't have a single fact independent of God. God's the only independent fact. But the weird thing about doing that is when you're talking about necessity, if you turn around and just switch that around and say, if some atheist came up to an agnostic and said, okay, here's the thing. When you assert a fact, when you mention any kind of fact, are you affirming, are you referencing the impossibility of a God? And they said, no. And then that atheist was like, aha, so you're a theist. You implicitly accept that there is a God. Right? That's essentially, and this is sort of the thing that he's trying to get somebody into. And it's like, look, it doesn't necessarily have to be a loaded question, but this weird setup, like it's not really a dichotomy. It's just a loaded question to get somebody, because if they answer yes, right, then they believe in God. If they answer no, well, then he'll just accuse them of being irrational. Like you don't have any kind of you don't have any grounds to intelligibility, so everything that you say could be wrong. You can't be certain about anything. All that usual pablum. But the problem with the first part is if they say, and this kid's a deist, they say, yeah, I do think that anything that you say ultimately, like, I don't think that you have to reference the God when you're referencing the fact, but all facts ultimately anything here is ultimately from whatever creator God I believe in.
Yeah.
Darth has then asked those people, what God are you talking about? What's your God? And then those people will try to explain it, like if they're a deist or a pantheist or whatever, and then they'll fail Darth there. So then Darth takes them and that's when Darth ends up like completely committing a huge double standard, because before he just all he has to do is get them to the part where they admit that they can't assert a fact without grounding it in God. Once you get to that point, every precept that knows the precept argument does this with their hands, slaps their hands clean, like, I won, and walks away. Darth's too stupid to get that. Darth then switches it to being about the Christian God, and the person who's like, oh yeah, I would affirm my deist God when I'm talking about facts. And then that's another thing for Darth to yell at them for, because they're getting that wrong now next. So yeah. It's interesting that you can be like this guy finds more ways to be wrong just to point out how wrong he thinks everyone else is. I think I confused myself with that sentence.
No, you're fine. It's just, I don't know, like I don't know. He is just like, he has alpha levels of just sad and depressing. Like the time and effort that he must have put in to not only writing but then memorizing this little script, like this like fucking word map of like, does he say yes, does he say no, okay, well, like, I have to go down here, and if he says yes, we have to go, like the level and like intricacy, and like even down to like the words that he uses, like they're all pretty much the same, like just how long that must have taken him. Take a bong rip every time he says Jesus Christ, on how high do you need to be?
You'd shatter your mind. But no, yeah, to your point, I mean, if you think I
just be here.
Yeah, the stakes have just gone up for young Steven right now. It's like, don't comprehend, don't even be tempted, Steven. Yeah. Your next few days off will be a nightmare, a living nightmare.
Yeah.
That was high for a week and a half.
Yeah. Just like, how did you manage that? I just watched the Darth Dawkins video. It just happened.
Things got out of control. Somebody dared me, and I was
like a drinking game, but exactly.
At the time, it sounded like a good idea, and then and then I lost my mind. Time stopped. But yeah, no, I mean, because that most of this stuff, like he's admitted to being a big Bonson fan, so I know he's watched that. Like, I mean, there's those Bonson videos are available on YouTube. You can watch the whole 4-hour session or whatever. I can only imagine how many times he's watched that, just trying to just going through it in his head, reading his little books and his pamphlets that kind of back that stuff up, and going back and forth and like, this, I'll own every skeptic I ever talk to again. No one's gonna tell me Jesus ain't real. Like, all right, bro. You do you. I mean, most people buy like an Xbox or a PlayStation, but whatever.
Yeah.
What is it?
God.
Okay,
there he goes. Okay,
so is God the necessary prerequisite for intelligibility?
Actually, I don't. I think God is necessary for intelligibility, but I don't think that intelligibility itself is necessary.
No, I said, do you believe that God is a necessary precondition for intelligibility?
He already answered that.
I think that intelligibility itself is not necessary.
Okay, that's an evasive and deceptive
One
response.
sec, guys. I'll be right back. One sec.
Yeah, he's being deceptive and evasive.
How?
Why? Because you have to go.
It's like, oh, is your bladder screaming at you? Liar, cheat, fraud, thief. Like, what the?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, like, I don't know, man. But I mean, like, if like leaving makes you a coward, then every time that he says that he has a dinner appointment, and that's because his mommy is texting him to say that dinner's on the table, like, does that mean that every time that he fucks off for a dinner appointment that he's being like evasive and a coward as well? It's like
he's
just
rage
have to
quitting.
leave
Yeah.
the room for a sec. Yeah.
Well, and if he ever complains about the fact, like, why do I have to eat so much shit when I come back here just because I left for 10 minutes? It's like, because you give everyone shit for literally turning off their mic to cough.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
he'll kick people if they don't answer him quick enough. Like, dude, you know, like, if you're getting this behavior back at you, it's because you have visited upon people 1,000-fold. You know, it's just now that people, you know, like, anytime people have an opportunity, like, usually if he steps away, I'll just accuse him of having a full diaper, right? Like, and I'm going to continue to accuse him of having a full diaper. I don't care if it smacks of ableism.
All right. I mean, I thought that we were watching a Darth Dawkins video and not a Caitlin Bennett video, but hey, you know, I'm down for it. I'm down for whatever.
I think that if he's wearing diapers and he's filling them, he's doing it for kink. It's not ableism. I think he's just got weird taste in things.
I mean, look, dude's getting old, you know. Not everybody can fucking control that shit forever, so he could actually be in those diapers pretty soon.
Oh, especially when you yell like that. If you start yelling at people and start telling people to fuck off, yeah, you might.
Yeah,
yeah.
Jesus Christ, man. Like, I think that he's kind of fucked himself in that regard. Can you imagine how high that man's blood pressure must be? The fact that, like, he's screaming all day at people online that he doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, Jesus Christ.
Well, it's not even just that. It's just like the level of hostility and tension that he brings into this. Even if he's not yelling at people, the fact that he can't have, like, this is not a source of stress release for him. Right? Like this, like he's one of those people that, like, you know, if his blood pressure gets too bad, if he does go and see a doctor, his doctor's going to be like, and he's honest with the doctor, which I would highly doubt. You know, they'd be like, what are you doing that is jerking you out of shape so much? Like, oh, I'm online all the time yelling at these people are wrong. Like, it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. If you can't cope with those kinds of emotions, like if you're on some kind of social media that's you know, and perpetuating that kind of emotional response and is damaging your health, you need to get off. You know, you need to stay away from that. Like I mean, if he was thinking healthy, but I'm sure he thinks this is healthy for people's souls, because he needs to be here making sure that you and me, Stephen, understand that we're going to hell.
I mean, that is the risk that we take, you know, when you kind of, you know, when you join the Church of Atheism, because apparently it's a religion now as well. But when you know, you are told before you do the secret blood oath, which I know that we can't really talk about, but it does involve like a lot of drinking of blood and babies. That's all I'm going to say. But you know, before you take the blood oath, you are told, well, we could be wrong, and if you are, you're going to hell. So he doesn't really need to tell us. Like, we already know. It's something we're aware of. But I like his spirit, though. I like his spirit.
Sir, can I ask something?
Okay. Can we get back to the conversation, Darth?
Yeah, go ahead.
I will pause it again real quick. I was watching the original source video for this. At least I think that's where Tom got it from, and that's kind of interesting, because, or at least I don't know if Tom got it from him, but I think it was Supreme Leader Streams has this segment up, and there's an extended section with a guy, Socrates' son. I think he's an older guy from Greece. So there's more conversation there. So if anybody's interested, Supreme Leader Streams has like the whole thing without any cuts in it.
Okay, I think you asked me enough questions. I answered all your questions in good faith. Do you think I've been respectful up to now?
Yeah, can you just get to the point? This is getting
okay,
weird.
Sure. Sure. So I think that you argue, right, as opposed to deductively, I think you argue from an abductive standpoint, because
No,
I don't think
actually,
that intelligibility.
you're mistaken. The transcendental argument for God, which is employed by Van Til himself, is not. It's not strictly deductive and it's not strictly inductive. It's a mixture. Okay, and I can
What?
dig up citations from Van Til where he actually says that.
Yeah. Can you explain that in depth? How is it inductive and deductive at the same time?
Okay, because we're starting with our own experience. Okay.
Wait, so are you conceding that it's a probabilistic conclusion then, because it's inductive in nature?
No, it's not. It's not. There's a difference. There's a difference between probabilistic and induction. You're conflating the two.
Actually, there is.
They're not much.
Inductive conclusions are probabilistic.
Yeah, this part they start talking past each other. Anybody who's better at logic than me, and there's a lot of people that are. Tell me if I'm wrong about this, but I think at Darth, and I can't believe I'm going to do this. There is a little bit of something to what Darth is saying here that's accurate. The problem is that he doesn't seem to understand where Aizen is become that the part that Aizen's becoming incredulous about. You would not blend an inductive argument is going to have a probabilistic conclusion. Even if it's going to be, it's never going to be certainly true. It's going to be probabilistically true. And a deductive argument is going to be at least logically true, and the conclusion would have to follow the premises. The trick is whether or not the premises are true, right? That's really the trick. But the argument itself, the structure of the argument, if the premises, follow the conclusion, must follow them, and if they happen to be true, the argument, that creates a valid argument. If they're all true, then the argument is now sound. An inductive argument's not going to get you there. It's always going to get you to a probabilistic conclusion, one that is either tentatively true or conditionally true, pending a future change or pending new information. What I think Darth is getting into at this part is that the premises of some deductive arguments can be probabilistically true. And I think maybe that's what he means. That's what he's exposed to. You wouldn't merge the two arguments because you're doing two very different things from the arguments. From what is it like? From the inductive argument, you're going from particulars to a general explanation. Deductive, you're going the other way around. You're going from something general to particular. And again, the conclusions are going to be different because induction, you're only going to get to something probabilistic or likely to be true. Deduction, you're supposed to get to something that's nearly certainly true, or at least logically it's going to be true if the actuality holds. And so that part I think is fine. But where Aizen's already pushing back, I'm like, wait, you can't have them both be deductive and inductive arguments at the same time. And he's right there as far as structure. Darth doesn't seem to get this part, so these guys kind of talk past each other, and I think Darth kind of loses. I think he gets a little pissed off here. Any thoughts, Stephen, before I turn it back on?
No. You're all good, man.
Okay.
No, not necessarily.
Wait, when is an inductive conclusion not probabilistic?
Okay. You could when you do induction, you're counting what is before you. Okay, you're starting with particulars within your uniform experience. Probabilism would require background information, okay, as to what's static and what's dynamic. Induction would just simply be what you become acquainted with in your immediate experience, which isn't necessarily a declaration of what would be static as opposed to what's dynamic. Okay, so
wait, so you said that.
Listen carefully. Do you agree or not agree that probabilistic evaluations are subject to background information?
I don't know what background information is.
Background information, can you make a probabilistic evaluation if you don't know what is static or dynamic?
I don't know what static and dynamic means.
Static means is what does not change versus what does change.
So you're saying can you make an inductive conclusion?
Can you make a probabilistic conclusion about selecting a ping pong ball with the number 8 on it when you do not know at any given moment when you reach into the plexiglass box how many numbered ping pong balls are in there?
Yeah, I don't know. But can I ask you a question?
No. The answer is The answer is not, I don't
Yes.
know. The answer is you could not.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
That doesn't really
so
matter
for
to the
example,
argument.
okay, do you know who William Lane Craig is?
Yes. Can I ask you a question?
Do you think he's adept at philosophy?
Yes. Can I ask you a question?
Okay, William Lane Craig has stated on a number of occasions that probabilities are subject to background information.
And of course, this is an example, not to nitpick here. This is a perfect example of an appeal to authority fallacy, because while William Lane Craig is pretty good at philosophy, and while he is a very learned person, William Lane Craig's specialty, his field, is theology. He is not. He does not have a PhD in analytical philosophy, and I don't believe he has any kind of credential. I think he might have some like undergrad stuff in philosophy, but I don't think it would be analytical philosophy, and I don't think he specializes in logic. So the idea of just appealing to a theologian to get this correct, I think, is, to me, this satisfies a kind of appeal to authority fallacy. It's like, well, William Lane Craig's a smart guy and a brilliant theologian, and he says this about inductive reasoning. Awesome. Why don't you maybe cite somebody who specializes in logic? Find an analytical philosopher, or find a logician. Ask them about it. Like,
Yeah, no, I just like the part where like he keeps asking them to answer, to ask him a question, and he just keeps fucking dodging it. Like he just won't he just won't answer him. He's just keep asking him. It's like he has his volume turned the whole way down to no, and he's just presumably saying. So he's just like, okay, yeah, like I guess he'd probably say no to this bit, so I'm just gonna ask you the next one anyway. Like there's no way that he can hear him. Like,
sure.
And that background information is going to be subject to what is static along with what is dynamic. Now,
Sure.
if everything was dynamic and there was nothing identifiable that's static, could you make probabilistic declarations that hold?
No, but can I ask you a question?
Okay, yeah. You listen, dude. This is getting wearisome. With
I
you.
said
What you see? What
this kid's starting to assert himself, and now Darth's getting extra. He's getting really extra. I don't want to say something ageist here. Cranky. I was going to say crotchety, but yeah, no. But yeah, Darth. It's weird because Darth is going to do this several times before this wraps up, where he's going to illustrate why this kid's behavior is bad, and this kid has been nothing but nice to him.
yeah, the kid's been only pleasant. Like he hasn't done it. Like he's been answering the questions, and then he's just been asking if he can ask more. That's it. That's all he's done. Darth's just getting angry at him for no fucking reason.
Jefferson, Craig has his PhD in philosophy. Okay. All right. I thought his PhD was in theology, but it'd be something good to be good to. Where did William Lane Craig go to school? I know he did go to
Oh God, I have no fucking idea.
Just looking up his Wikipedia article is accurate as far as like where he attended. Yeah, okay. Peoria Community High School. Then he went to Wheaton, majoring in communications. Communications, his phony major. Sorry. Met his wife in Campus Crusade for Christ. Pine Creek was right. That's why he became. He entered the philosophy of religion at Trinity Evangelical Divinity School north of Chicago, where he studied under Norman Geisler. He commenced doctoral studies in philosophy at the University of Birmingham, England, writing on the cosmological argument under the direction of John Hick. He was awarded a doctorate in 1977, and then he came out of it, and then he did the Kalam cosmological defense of the argument he first encountered in Hackett's work. Okay, so yeah. So yeah, he Wheaton College for undergrad, then he went to seminary, Trinity Evangelical Divinity School, and then he went to the University of Birmingham and got a PhD in just as philosophy. So I don't see. Got a postdoctoral fellowship to pursue research on the historicity of the resurrection of Jesus. Studies in Munich under Pannenberg supervision led to a second doctorate. This one in theology. Okay, that's what I'm thinking of. He did get a doctorate in theology. doesn't say from whom, but he got it through. Oh, the Ludwig Maximilians Universität München in Germany. Okay. That's the theology degree I was thinking of. That was the PhD. So anyway, so no, so I guess it wouldn't be an appeal to authority fallacy. He does have a PhD in philosophy. So
What is your real point that you want to get to?
Okay. Okay. Sure. Thank you for saying that. My real point is
because you're being coy.
Okay. Yeah. I understand
Coy.
why you would think that. The real point I want to get to is: do you think that there is a syllogism that establishes the existence of God? And if so, can you render it?
I already gave it yesterday. Okay.
Oh, okay, okay. So I'll ask you a question about that syllogism you gave yesterday because I have it written down, right? Do you remember the premises, or do you want me to repeat them to you?
You know what? This is really getting irritating.
Okay. The question.
I love this. This kid's offering to do things for him, and that irritates Darth.
Yeah.
It's
Like-
kind of telling.
Is it just because Darth is really old, or like am I just kind of carbon dating myself here? But what the fuck does coy mean?
Well, it depends. There's two different meanings for it, naturally. So one is, I think the one that most people, at least the one that I'm most used to hearing, coy, is when normally used if someone is attempting to act. They're sort of making a pretense at behaving like they're shy in an attempt to make themselves more alluring, right? It's kind of an old-fashioned thing, what she was being coy. In other words, she's pretending to shy and she's acting like she's embarrassed or anything like that. She's doing that to endear herself to someone. But there also, coy also means you can be kind of reticent about revealing details of a subject that you think is sensitive. So that's when you see somebody kind of like, be a little uncomfortable about giving details about a particular thing. In this case, Darth's using at least that definition of coy, so he's not wrong. It's just that, but the kid's not doing either one of them. He wasn't being coy. He's been answering Darth's questions as better than quite a few people that I've ever seen. Like, he's been willing to just spits them out. So
Yeah.
If you listen carefully.
Simon's saying, like, coy means shy. Basically, yeah. But it's weird because if even if you took it as like he being shy, like Darth is kind of blaming this. Like if coy means shy, and Darth thinks that coy means shy, most simply, does he think that someone pretending to be like someone being coy is being deceptively shy? Like, because this kid's not being shy. Right. So, I think coy, Darth is using the term coy to mean that this kid's being evasive. Like, he's using it like another way of saying evasive or something. And that's not really accurate in that sense. So I don't know why he just didn't stick to accusing the kid of being, of just being shady.
Let me put it in polite terms. If you don't get your fucking point, I'm going to...
Whoa. Now he's swearing. He wasn't being coy. He was being circumspect. Yes.
Server me. Let me put it getting irritating.
Okay. The question
if
is,
you listen carefully. Let me put it in polite terms. If you don't get your fucking point, I'm going to server mute you.
Okay, thanks. My point is, do you think God can reveal himself without existing?
Can God reveal himself if he doesn't exist? That's an incoherent notion.
Okay, exactly. So you think he can't do that? Okay, good. So
no, I didn't. Stop right there. You know what? You're beyond precocious. You're really getting to be annoying right now because you're indicating.
Okay, that word he is using wrong. You're being precocious. Precocious means advanced beyond your years. It's generally a good. That's
not what that. That's not what he said it was. Like, yeah.
Yeah, that's not what it means. Precocious is a good thing. Like, if you have a 4-year-old kid that's reading the newspaper and understanding it, that child is precocious. If you have a 10-year-old that plays at Carnegie Hall, plays piano at Carnegie Hall, that child is precocious. Like, they have there's a development that's occurred in them that is far beyond their years. That's what precocious generally means. I think there's another definition of it, but it's slightly different, but it's basically kind of the same thing. Just to be fair to Darth, look it up one more time. Yep. Having developed certain abilities or proclivities at an earlier age than usual, or behavior or ability indicative of early development of a plant, would say flowering or fruiting earlier than usual. So that is not a word that you want to use on somebody, like in the sense that Darth Dawkins was. I don't even know what I don't know what he was hoping. I can only imagine what he thought that was like a synonym for. Oh, this is interesting shit. Jefferson, Darth just enjoys using language that elicits some kind of sexual situation. Cat calls coy. The latest video where he says people following his show are stalking like horny men. That's an interesting. That's an interesting observation. Yeah, I still haven't figured out why he uses cat calls. Like that is a weird. People are on here cat calling me. Like, and he's old enough to cat calling is a pretty old fashioned term, and he acts like it's like he might be a little oblivious to what it really means. It's like no one is cat calling you, Darth. Like that's a very specific claim.
Yeah. It's a very specific claim, and it's a very specific thing as well. Like it's not, you know what I mean? Like it's just it is kind of weird that he keeps using it.
Yeah. Now I haven't heard it in a while, so maybe somebody pointed it out to him or he's caught on. Maybe he's actually listening to my videos. Because anytime he says it, I drop a hammer on that one. I love that.
Indicating to me that you have this agenda that you're holding, you're waiting to drop the bomb here. Okay, you just made a statement as to what I agreed to, what I didn't agree to. I just said that notion is incoherent.
Okay, so the notion is incoherent. So that means that, and I'm
so
just
for example, so if you said to me, can God create a rock so big that he can't lift it? And I said, that's incoherent. And you say, oh, okay, so you agree that God can't do it. That's what you just did.
Oh, no, that's not what I mean. That's not what I mean. No, I'm not, in no way I'm bringing it up.
Hey, listen to me. I've warned you several times. You better get to your fundamental point instead of beating around the bush.
Okay, my fundamental point is, in the syllogism that you provided, it presumes that God first has to exist to reveal himself. So it's circular.
No, you know what? You're really dumb. Okay, I've gone over this. Okay,
ding. That's how you know the kid struck a nerve. Like his first reaction, like this kid's been nothing but nice to him, but Darth has to come out. You know what? You're really dumb. And people have already pointed this out to him. That his argument at first he was affirming the consequent because he couldn't get the structure right. Now he's got the structure right, and people are pointing him out. Yes, your argument is valid. However, it's still begging the question. And he doesn't get that. It's like, it's frustrating.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like it's the worst that you can possibly give, because if you're starting to insult someone, if you're starting to kind of make fun of them rather than responding to their argument, I mean, then that just proves that they've got you angry, which also proves that you got under their skin. Like, why would you admit that? Like, just, you know what I mean? Accept that it happened, but just don't say anything that's going to make them know that it did. Like, why would you? Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Right. It's showing you as weak and them as stronger.
Yeah.
Why?
The point is, Didi said God not existing and being able to reveal himself is not incoherent. Yeah. Yeah. Because he's trying to say, because he's been defending that argument, trying to say, well, no, they're two different things. The fact that God's revelation and God's existence are separate enough that we're talking about different. I think he even said they're different entailments. Like, no, they're not. Like God manifesting himself means he's revealing his existence, which presupposes his existence in the first place. Mm-hmm. One cannot manifest what one does not have, right? And that's a weird way of putting that, because existence isn't really something that you have, but you'd have to exist in order to manifest. Bigfoot has to be real in order to reveal himself to the world. So,
exactly. Yeah.
I don't get why Darth is digging into this so hard. Why? I don't know why he hasn't fled from this. Like, it was bad enough that he clung to that like invalid argument construction for as long as he did, and then it was kind of shitty that he did change that structure, didn't acknowledge that he was wrong, but at least got that sorted out. And now people are continuing to point out, like, this begs the question, man. It's not an invalid structure. You've got Monus Ponens down. Maybe this works. However, the thing that you're talking about in premise 2 presupposes the God that you're concluding. So it's begging the question.
The first premise says
Mhm.
in
Let me
the
write it down.
case in the case that God, well, you told me you wrote it down yesterday.
This is different from the one you just gave me yesterday.
No, it is not.
Okay, then go ahead.
Okay. The first premise is, in the case that the Christian God exists, and he reveals himself through a phenomenon that that necessarily entails him, then he exists. That's the first premise.
I think he believes that by larding up that first premise with all that crap, like this manifestation that necessarily entails his existence, somehow gets him out of is going to get him out of a begging the question, an accusation that he's begging the question. Like it's odd. It's like, okay, it doesn't matter what everyone gets that the manifestation, it's supposed to be undeniable, and it's necessary following that manifestation that this God must exist. That actually makes things like, that's just doubling down on it. That means that his existence is undeniable because of the manifestation, which means he has to exist in order for the manifestation to mean a damn thing. Like, I don't understand why he has such a difficult time. Like, he's trying to in trying to keep them, kind of make them separate entities or have separate entailments, that he's blending them together so completely now. And the language that he uses in premise one just makes it even more dependent, or at least I don't really think it does in a structural way, but it makes it sound even more dependent. Like, it necessarily follows that manifestation entails God's existence. Yeah, gotcha. You're begging the question. He has to exist in order to manifest himself. So that's the conclusion to your argument. You're begging the question. I don't understand what he's doing. He should have taken some community college courses.
Yeah, but you see, he wouldn't be able to make fun of people who go to community colleges as like a way of calling them stupid if he did. So, because he just feel bad about it.
Yeah, he hates those community college lectures. I hate to tell him that, like, most community college courses, are kind of self-directed and are online. So.
True.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. What's the second premise?
The second premise is, there is a phenomenon that entails God. It necessarily implies God. Conclusion,
Okay. And then
therefore
the conclusion
God
is God
exists.
exists?
Yeah.
The conclusion is God exists? Okay. So you're saying that the Christian God revealed himself through a phenomenon, and that's how we know he exists. That's how he exists. But wouldn't God first have to exist to be able to reveal himself through a phenomenon?
You know something? You're really, listen, you are ignorant as a 15-year-old teenager.
Hey, I'm not the one begging the question.
I'm not the one falsely accusing somebody of begging the question.
Then go ahead and explain how you're not doing it.
You haven't established that. Listen to me carefully.
Okay, I'll tell you.
Listen to me carefully. You're not as smart as you think you are.
Yes,
You're really dumb, and no, you're not.
I'm extremely smart, actually.
No. You may be smart, but you're not as smart as you think you are, and I'm going to explain why. Okay. Now,
go ahead.
Getting loud and getting angry. So this is how it ends.
When you say I'm begging the question, right? All I'm simply saying is there is a phenomenon, okay? But that the phenomenon implies God. Something implying God is not the same thing as saying God exists.
It's worded in his first premise that the manifestation necessarily entails God. Like, it's if you see the manifestation, you cannot deny the existence of this God. And then he's like, no, it just implies him. I'm like, what? What?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. There's not too many people on this planet. I think I think Darth is kind of tied with Jordan Peterson on one very, very, very specific issue. Is that it's a tie between them for the ultimate combination of how confidently you speak on an issue that you know fucking nothing about. That is Darth.
Mighty Sarlacc. This reminds me of P2X. Yeah.
That was
Okay,
I-
so
oh,
you,
it's just-
so you just so you did a face plant on the concrete sidewalk.
Not really. Not really. That's not relevant
No,
to what I said. right?
you're not understanding. Something
I am
implying if something implying the existence is not the same thing as stating that X exists. If
I
we
didn't say that.
why, okay, now so where's the begging the question in the two premises and the conclusion? Where?
Sure. So the first premise means that God exists because for him to reveal himself, he first has to
No,
exist.
no, dumb.
The phenomenon
Wow,
is
you know what?
tautological.
I can't. This kid is literally taking Darth to school here. Well, sorry, I should use the
Yeah.
word literally. He's not, because Darth would refuse to walk into an actual school. He would burst into flames, I think. But he's walking him through this, and he's been completely nice up until the time he got a little assertive when he kept repeating "sure" because Darth wouldn't stop attempting to ask him the same question. But for the most part, he's been completely nice and very, very civil here. And I'm wondering if there's anybody on the, because they're obviously going to have to be like a Christian to get Darth to understand, like spell it out for him and be like, look, show this to William Lane Craig. Email William Lane Craig and ask him if this thing begs the question, because it does.
Yeah.
Maybe William Lane Craig could get this through to through Darth Dawkins' extremely thick skull, because he's certainly not he's going to use any excuse from it. They're not enough Christian. They're too young. They're too old. They're too liberal. They're too whatever. So he doesn't have to listen to them, or they're too correct.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's just the way he has phrased that first premise. It is quite literally, it's literally begging the question. Like, this kid is fucking schooling him, and it's fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
He's 15 and he's schooling Darth Dawkins. I think someone in your comment section, said that this kid's going to have a bright future, and the fuck he will.
Yeah, and the sad thing about, so let's say if this kid really is 15, another 10 years from now, Darth Dawkins is going to be 60 going on 80, or because whatever his age is, he's been saying he's 60 for the last 5 years or so, I think. But whatever, Darth is going to be just crankier and more, more ground, more set in his ways and this kind of stuff. And like if Aizen represents the future of even a relatively small percentage of younger people that are being exposed to this kind of stuff and working it through it, they're going to wipe guys like this out. And Darth Dawkins represents sort of like, I think he's like a sign of strength for at least the fundies that are on here. Like, if they topple this kind of thing, the only Christians I think they're going to have like a point of it, a place of influence, are going to be the open theists, the Pete Enns type Christians, those kinds, or as Darth Dawkins calls them, the liberal apostates. But same thing. Hang on just a second. Grande Mashups is asking for one, and I wouldn't mind him coming in here because he does this stuff quite a bit.
No problem.
Let's see. Oh, I didn't catch this. I don't think he's available. All right. Sorry about this, folks. I'll be right back with you.
No problem. No problem.
Time Rabbit had asked me for one, and I didn't say it because it's in Discord, and I am shit at keeping up with Discord. So I send him a join link, and I was going to send one to. Let's see here. I think I just waved to him. I'm going to pop that link in the text too as well, I think. right, folks, I'm going to be putting the join link in there. I'm only going to be bringing in 2 people. Tom Rabbit, if he's still available. I don't know that he is. My apologies to Tom Rabbit. He asked to come on this and do this. And then Darth Arianis, if he, or Grande Mashups as he is in here. Let's see. Grande, is that you that I texted on, let's see, on Discord? I was going to send it to you there. I think I'm just going to post here. But I'm just going to be bringing those 2 guys on if they want. So apologies to anyone else who might want in, but I'm going to pin this for him. So yeah, to Tom and to Darth Arianis or Grande Mashups, link is in the chat. And I've pinned it to the top so you can't miss it.
I'm just vibing out here anyway, man. I'm good, you know.
Just confirm it on there.
Oh, we got Richard Madsen in the chat.
Hey, Richard, how you doing? Yeah, sorry, Richard. I'm just probably going to bring them in if they're willing to. Let's see. All right, and Darth, if you're listening, Darth Arianis, I did post it to you in your games. If you want to join in, go ahead. I'm just going to keep the space open for those 2 if they want to join. And again, apologies to Tom. I would let him jump in here, but I totally missed that. That's my bad. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, how are you guys?
Hey, Norman.
Doing great. Thanks for coming in late. Anything you want to add?
Well, the funny thing about this video is that it's just very clear that everyone's talking about how Darth is begging the question and affirming the consequence in his syllogisms and all that stuff. But I think the more interesting here is how he says blunders like inductive arguments are not probabilistic, and you can have a combination of an inductive argument with a deductive one. And a lot of people were calling him out on that. But I think, to be charitable to him, I think what he's trying to say is that you could have a sort of deductive argument that contains some sort of premise that is known synthetically, right? Like a premise that's justified empirically.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't even think that the Aizen kid was going to press him on that, because he just wanted clarification on how is it the case that he can argue for God in a way that's logically valid, which is fine. But here's the other thing, right? It's just with his whole presuppositionalist apologetic, I just take it that something very similar to this is just going to be like some sort of reformed epistemology. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so the idea is that the theist is going to be they're going to be committed to the notion that in order for humans to have reliable sense perception to a degree, their cognitive faculties have to be designed for truth tracking, right? Or else what you have is just like if it's not the design if it's not the design explanation, it's either going to be something like, natural events, right, are just going to be the causal explanation for why we have reliable sense perception. And what they're going to want to say is that you can't have that because natural states aren't about things, whereas intentional states are about things. So there's like some disconnect there, right? So how is it that reason can emerge from things that are non-rational, like the natural? But here's several things I could respond to this. You see the same problem with precept. Number one, God. How is it the case that God can have cognitive faculties, but his cognitive faculties aren't designed under your view, right? But somehow he knows all true propositions. But when it comes to us, you make the claim that, well, in order for us to have reliable sense perception, our cognitive faculties have to be designed for truth tracking, right? And there hasn't been a good answer to that question, right? It just seems like they're just going to special plead and say, well, God is, infallible or whatever, but that doesn't really answer anything.
Yeah,
right?
that doesn't help. They're just asserting.
That's just saying that God can have cognitive faculties that are reliable, which are not designed because he's God. Basically, he has these properties.
I mean,
but
you kind of see him doing that with the mind thing too. Like, well, we want to say that he's like a mind, but he really, when you dig into like, what do you mean by that? I mean, if you're just using that
yeah,
analogically,
right.
where does that analogy fail?
They think that he can be an agent, but he can be a law-like agent, whereas they think humans are non-law-like agents. Right, it's
Yeah.
the same kind of thing. But the thing is, with Darth and with other precepts, this is crucial, right? It's not going to be something that they're going to have. Well, they're going to hand wave it anyway. But it's crucial because he's not just making a claim about metaphysics. He's going to make a claim about epistemology. He thinks that epistemic norms are categorical. They're going to be independent of like instrumental norms, like what we find useful,
Yeah.
right? So they're going to be independent of our desires and beliefs and things like that. But I mean, there's a greater epistemic point to be made is how does he argue against someone who's like a relativist about epistemology? That's to be interesting if someone argued, because out of all the Darth Dawkins debates that I've seen, it's more like people are asking him, well, how do you know that God revealed it to you in such a way, right? But they're like giving an internal critique of his arguments, but they aren't giving an internal critique of what he's trying to say. What I would like to say is that how does Darth know that, first of all, the thing about God, how is it the case that God doesn't require a designer for his cognitive faculties, and that's no problem for God, right? But it's a problem for us if our cognitive faculties are not designed. That's number one. And number two, how does Darth Dawkins know that epistemology isn't relative? That would be the 2 points of contention.
Yeah, no, those would be good questions.
But this kid is just like, it didn't need to even go that far. He just blew him out of the water, right? He was saying some crazy stuff. EF was saying some crazy stuff in this video.
Yeah.
But that's just an aspect of the uniformity of nature, right? That he says crazy stuff.
Yeah, it's a property that Darth Dawkins always has to. He's always going to present that. All right, here we go.
I forgot it.
See, you're now being argumentative with me. I've already explained to you. Okay, the first premise does not assert that God necessarily exists. It says in the case that he exists.
Yeah, it's P2. P2 is what I'm talking about.
Listen to me carefully. Okay.
I am.
P2, premise 2 is that there's a phenomenon that implies God.
Sure.
Is P2 hold on a second. Is P2 the same as the conclusion?
No.
Good. So where's begging the question?
P2 presumes that the conclusion is true. It's not the same thing, though.
No, sir. No. Listen to me carefully.
What?
Where is begging the question? Funny. Show it to me in P.
I love that reaction. What?
Why does he think that the premises have to be identical for it to be begging the question? Right? You could just implicitly assume that the conclusion is true,
which is
one
weird,
of the
right?
Premises.
And he's got that, right? Like, because I mean, he's saying like, no, I'm just saying that the manifestation implies God. Yeah, well, okay. It doesn't have to be. They don't have to be identical in terminology in order for that to work. Like if the implication is your God exists in order for it to manifest itself. Like the fact that he's like quibbling over the fact that it's no, it just implies his existence. Yeah, it entails his existence. Right? That's the whole point of your argument, right? I don't understand how he thinks this is a defense. I don't think I've ever really seen him quite this lost before in one of his own bad arguments. But maybe I wasn't paying attention enough to his early work. So I have been trying to watch some of those older videos that what's his name? Scott. He's a YouTube user. He's been putting up. All right, let's wrap this up. I think we just got a couple more minutes. So
where in P1,
Sure.
P2 in the conclusion is it begging the question? You know what?
Sure.
Your time has just about run out because you're suffering from the Dunning-Kruger effect.
You just asked me a question and then continue to
Okay.
talk.
Well, last warning. Show me where that's begging the question.
Sure.
Where is the conclusion?
Okay. I actually referenced that part early on. I thought it had happened, so I goofed up. I kind of inadvertently gave a spoiler. This is the part where Aizen actually gets a little. So up until this point, he's been very, very cordial, very civil, very charitable, I think. And at this point, he's starting to get pissed because Dawkins is really just being a stubborn old goat at this point.
Overtalk me
sure.
again, and you're going to be server muted. Where is the conclusion smuggled into P2, P1, or P2?
So P2 means that God first has to exist to reveal himself through a phenomenon. Right?
No, sir, no. Well, P2
Yes.
P2 is not a stipulation
Of God existing.
that God exists. It's a stipulation that there's a phenomenon that implies God.
I understand that.
Okay, so is P?
Yeah, he's getting a little feistier.
Yeah, getting kind of aggressive there.
Yeah. Especially since he started off great. He started off like, no, you're my elder. I'm going to respect you. And now it's like, all right, dude, you're being a jerk. and the bad thing is,
deserves it.
If he were to just come right out and say that, Darth, you're really being a jerk here, that's when you get muted and kicked. I don't need to listen to your deceptive, deceitful, drunken self.
P2 declaring God exists.
No.
Good.
Do you know what an enthymeme is?
So is the conclusion in P2?
No. P2 presumes that the conclusion is first true for it to be.
No, sir. Listen.
Can I explain why?
Okay, we're done.
Okay,
wow.
you're fucking retarded.
You're a 15-year-old is telling an experienced debater that I'm retarded. Okay.
Yeah, you should probably.
Bad experience, right?
Yeah, there's a saying. I don't play golf, but I've known plenty of people who've obsessed over it. Where, like, you can go out and practice as much as you want, but if you keep practicing the bad techniques over and over and over again, that's what you get good at. Is really bad techniques. That's sort of what Darth's been doing.
True.
Hey, could I ask a question, Darth, please?
Yeah, mate. Go ahead. Did you get that, Tom Rabbit?
Okay,
Oh, you sure did. The thing is that in all of the syllogisms, at least in most of the syllogisms that we were reviewing, Jefferson, in the video where he's talking to Serafina or whatever her name is, he starts every syllogism by the first premise being a tautology, right?
Yeah.
So if he says, like, if God exists, then he will manifest himself in reality in such a way that it would entail that he exists. You can just plug that in as P, Q, P, right, into a truth table, and it shows as a tautology.
And that was what, it was
Josh. Yeah.
Josh had put it. He's like, I just plugged it in here. It's just a tautology.
But the thing is that he would just reword it differently in different syllogisms, so it wouldn't appear as if it were a tautology, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So, all right. Final words or anything? I'll probably bring a couple people in here, but probably offline because I did say a couple other people wanted to come on, but I just wanted to limit it to Stephen, Darth, and Tom Rabbit. But Tom did make it back. So, final words, impressions, takes.
Dart's stupidity and lack of understanding of basic argumentation never ceases to amaze me. Other than that, I mean, like, it's like the kid did pretty good, for 15. He did pretty good. Kind of up until the end there, I really don't like the fact that he used the or slur there. That's that's it kind of, how do I say it? Kind of ruined it for me, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but
no, other
again,
than that, no, like he did pretty good for as young as he is. So props.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think like in most cases, like these guys, if he's 15 and hanging out in these circles, they're going to be using that word a lot. Unfortunately, like I don't know what it is about this section of the internet, like that gets word. I mean, I've used the word myself probably more times than I should, but again, I'm also old, so
yeah,
like
no,
that's not
look,
an excuse, but it is a reason.
I'm not a fucking saint. I've said it myself. But yeah, it just kind of, I don't know, like, it just, like, at a certain point, like, you just kind of realize, oh, all right, okay, I should probably stop saying this word now. And it's just kind of like shortly after that, like, you kind of, like, if you hear it then from someone else, it kind of, I don't know, hits you, hits you a little bit more, and you're kind of like, oh, I don't like that. So yeah, no, like, I had obviously stopped kind of saying it, like, I don't know, less than a decade ago, but close. Anyway, the point is, it's just kind of, yeah, I don't know. I hear it, and it's just, it taints my impression of somebody.
It doesn't. Well, in my case, it's probably that one doesn't do it for me, but it would be something like the F word. That one does. Like, and when me coming
Yeah.
up, that was something like, when I was coming up, it would be kind of cognizant of words like that. And have been in late 80s, early 90s, mostly
Yeah.
in the 90s. You could say that word all the time. And I don't think I used it. I don't really think I ever used it. But as I got older and stuff, it was never one that it wasn't a go-to word. And now, now that I am, where I am, especially, politically, and kind of philosophically, if I hear somebody use that in kind of seriousness, like, I'm just like, yeah, you're a piece of shit. Like it immediately just don't use that word. Like, but I've known plenty of gay friends who will use it casually and throw it around at each other. And honestly, when that happens, I think that is hilarious. Like, I also know that, like, no, if I said it, I'm pretty sure I would come across as those I'm thinking of Smokey Sane. I would come across like that, and that's just like, that I have no patience for that one. But anyway, that's kind of off topic. But anyway, yeah, thanks, Stephen, for showing up, and
No problem.
you're welcome. And I'm sorry, and I'm glad you had substances there so that you could blunt the effects of it. Thanks to Grande Mashups or Darth Arianis for joining. I think he had to take off. Or he had connections issues, but yep, he just dropped off. So I'm going to wrap it up here. There's not too much more to do with this one. I'm going to be I'm going to re-review a couple of, well, not re-review, but there's a couple of the other ones coming up have to do with Darth confronting a Christian, and it's Darth makes a friend and then loses that friend in the same amount of time. It's really interesting. It's about, I think he talks to him for about 30 minutes. And it's like, oh, Darth and this guy, each one has the other half of, the locket, from, separated from when they were kids. And then it immediately takes a turn when the guy that Darth is talking to knows quite a bit more, has a better handle on philosophy, and tries to correct Darth Dawkins. And it gets bad. But it gets into some pretty interesting stuff. And Tom's got one on commentary. I'm going to go over some of those because I think there's some pretty good points in those. So those will be next. And that one, I'm probably going to ask Alistair. I don't know if he's still working or still here, but he also goes with the name Victory. I think he's going to be joining me for one of those. So keep an eye out for those. I'll probably do those. Cool. If not tomorrow, maybe the day after. We'll see. I try to schedule those in advance as much as I can. Anyway, thank you again, Stephen. You got
No
anything
problem
coming
at
up
all, man.
on Cider and Port?
Yeah, tomorrow night I am streaming. I haven't streamed in a good little while, so there's a lot to go over. I'm going to be talking about the fact that Candace Owens stupidly thought that she was qualified to run for the Supreme Court. I want to talk about Tucker Carlson no longer being sexually attracted to a cartoon. And there's a bunch of super stupid stuff that's after happening in the last little while. There was one other. I'm going to talk about the fact that Jordan Peterson wore a tuxedo to a casual event, being the Joe Rogan Experience, and then equated climate to everything. And there's a lot of clips of that to go over as well. Tomorrow is going to be a fun one. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh my god, Michael Deaton has said, I don't know why I saw Von Helton's name. Off to watch Secular Opinion stream next, I guess. 30 minutes to Von Helton situation. Oh, there's a Von Helton situation? I mean, Von Helton himself is always a situation, but if there's a new set of circumstances surrounding Von Helton, I would like to watch that. It's been a long time since I've yelled at that old creep. Anyway, he's a creepy, like, backwoods hillbilly meth wizard or something. I don't know what his problem is, but anyway, folks, I'm going to wrap it up there before I start ranting about Von Helton. Take it easy, everybody. Have a great one. I will be back in probably another night or two. I'm kind of battening down for a pretty decent storm, so I'll probably be bored tomorrow night and be on here. I got nothing else to do. So take it easy, folks. Thanks, Stephen, again. Check out his channel, folks. His thing is linked down in the bottom. Link to the original video for this, so for Tom Rabbit's channel is down there as well. And we will see you all later.
Thanks, guys.